Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday and happy Pride Month. Thank you so much for being here as a part of Something to Talk About Live. My name is Jamie Hinkle. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the Learning and Inclusion Manager at PFLAG National. I'm going to be with you in the comment section and all of the spaces that you are joining us today from. So if you have questions or comments, please feel free to share them there. Just like every week, I am going to introduce Jean Marie Nevada, who is going to facilitate today's conversation. Hi, Jean Marie. Jamie Hinkle. It's Pride Month, and we're talking
Pride Month.
flags.
And I have my Puerto Rican pride flag, so you know.
That's wonderful.
I am very excited about our conversation, and you're coming back, so we're talking more later.
Absolutely, I will see you soon.
So let me get started so I can see you and Mackenzie soon. Hey everybody, my name is Jean Marie Nevada. My pronouns are she and her, or ella if you Spanish. And I'm the Director of Learning and Inclusion at PFLAG National. Every single week we get together to talk about something related to LGBTQ learning, inclusion, and equality. And this week we are talking about, since it is the beginning of Pride Month, symbolism, and specifically the symbolism of flags in the LGBTQ space. So we have two parts of the show for you today. So I'm going to be talking about two different conversations. And the first one I'm so excited about. Any of you who know me know that I have a deep and passionate love affair with shoes. And PFLAG has been lucky for the past few years to do a partnership with Sperry to produce a great pride line that benefits PFLAG National and all of our work. And today I have two of my friends from Sperry to talk a little bit about that line and how it came to be and how it's more than just the shoes, as if there's more to life than just shoes. So I want to bring in Sara Kalman and Courtney Dronsfield. Hello, my friends. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Happy to be with you today.
I am so happy to see both of you, and we've had so much fun working together. I'm really excited about this conversation. So for people who don't know about any of this, you need to just go to Sperry.com when you're done watching this and check out the amazing Pride collection that they have worked on. But Sara, first of all, could you actually, Sara and Courtney, could you both tell people a little bit about your roles at Sperry? So Sara first and then Courtney.
Sure. So my name is Sara Kalman, and I'm the brand marketing manager at Sperry. My pronouns are she, her, and I work hand in hand with the PFLAG team on our partnership throughout the past few years, and so excited to talk about the collection today.
Yes, and I'm Courtney Dronsfield, product manager at Sperry. My pronouns are she and her, and I manage our special collaboration projects and product that we get to do with really amazing partners like PFLAG. Really excited to talk about the collection this year.
Thank you both for being here. So, Sara, this is not the first time that we've done shoes together. I have my whole collection now. But it is definitely the biggest line. So can you talk a little bit about the reason for expanding the line this year?
Absolutely. So when we learned that PFLAG would be celebrating their 50th anniversary this year, we knew that we had to partner with you all to celebrate the huge milestone. You have been such amazing partners over the past few years that we really wanted to amplify the amazing work that PFLAG does day in and day out. And we figured, what better way to do that than with our Pride collection and the campaign overall?
And it's such a neat campaign. And I really encourage you to check. I'm not just saying this because I love PFLAG and I love shoes, but it is really, really neat how you did this. And it was a lot of the design that I found to be so fascinating. And I was so excited to help be one of the many voices that participated in the project. So Courtney, each one of the shoes represents a decade in PFLAG's history, and it features different pride flags from the LGBTQ community. Can you tell people a little bit about how you developed these designs?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were really excited to go deeper with the meaning of each footwear silhouette this year, and we're inspired by the correlation between PFLAG's 50th anniversary and the different flags that have been created over that 50-year history. So Sperry is coming up on our 90th birthday, actually. So we were excited to pair the flags with our gender inclusive product styles, with various silhouettes from boat shoes to sneakers to sandals that have also launched throughout our brand history. And this collection is extremely detailed and inspired by the evolution and progression of various pride flags, beginning with the original rainbow flag in 1978 through to the more recent Progress Pride flag that was released in 2018. And we incorporated 5 flags in this year's collection, and we certainly hope to expand into additional flags in the future.
And I love the fact that you did mention there is the gender inclusive product line, which kind of brings me back to Sara. So, there's so much conversation about rainbow washing, especially in June. It feels like every company goes rainbow for, 30 days. And it felt to me, having worked with a lot of different companies, that Sperry was so aware of this issue. And you did a lot of work behind the scenes with your teams at Sperry to make sure that this wasn't just a commercial campaign. This wasn't just about producing shoes, but it was a workplace education project. So you did the internal and the external work. I would love for people to hear a little bit about that, because I think it is such a beautiful model for other companies to follow.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. So when we first began our partnership with PFLAG, we knew that it needed to be genuine and authentic. It wasn't about selling shoes. It really was getting our consumers, but also our internal employees and team to understand our commitment to inclusion. We wanted to ensure that we were going about the partnership in the right way. So when we found PFLAG and found your Straight for Equality learning program, we knew that that would be like the greatest way to kind of get into the organization and really share our passion for inclusion. And now for the past 3 years, we've held these learning sessions with your team for our employees, ranging from Allyship 101 to what would you do situational workshop, now to the Becoming a Trans Ally session that we just held earlier this week. And we've also focused on retail associate trainings as well, that we find so important to really ensure safe shopping experiences at our stores.
And I just love that. Oh, sorry. Continue.
No, I was going to say, you mentioned before the gender inclusive products as well. So the learning sessions not only helped us like in that moment and kind of help deepen our allyship on a personal level, but it also let us have further discussions internally and with the PFLAG team on how we can become more inclusive, which ultimately led to a gender inclusive merchandising page on Sperry.com that we worked with you all on, and started to develop more gender inclusive products from the get-go as well, which we're really excited about.
And I have to tell you, it's really exciting to go to the site, which I was just joking I was on during lunchtime again today, and to see the information about the gender inclusive sizing and how it is being worked on and how it's constantly evolving. Because this isn't here's the one way to do it and we're just going to do it and continue moving. It very much is a partnership, and it is so many questions. And having done some of those trainings with you, the questions that we got from people were so thoughtful and so kind and so sincere. It was one of those things that made you feel really good about the work that we were doing. And I appreciate that. Courtney, you're sort of on the design side. Do you feel that products and projects like this one are an effective way to demonstrate the power of design when it comes to elevating communities and elevating issues? So yes or no on that one?
Yes, absolutely. Our team does a lot of market research and gathers inspiration for any project that we do. So this was no exception. It was really an honor for our team to get to dig deeper into PFLAG's history and educate ourselves on the community and how the various pride flags support members within the larger LGBTQ plus umbrella. We really listened to feedback and heard a clear message that many products only feature the traditional rainbow flag and don't branch into specific flags such as the lesbian pride flag and the bisexual pride flag, for example. So that was a design feature that we really wanted to focus on. The kind of common design thread through this whole collection is a focus on denim and various washes and details and treatments of denim over the past 50 years. And our team really had a lot of fun getting inspired from the fashion and culture, pop culture throughout each of these decades, and really making sure each detail on the footwear was thoughtfully designed. As Sara mentioned, shopping for clothing and footwear can be a challenging experience for some. And at Sperry, it's important to us to make sure that everyone feels safe and included when wearing our product, really making sure that the products were available in inclusive sizing and not limited by gender-specific language was our top priority. And our hope is that this footwear can be a conversation starter and always really encourage our consumers to be leading with love.
I thank you so much. I have to tell you, whenever I wear my Sperry's from last year, people stop me every single time that I have them on. They are total conversation starters. And my friends who have bought them tell me the exact same thing. So they're really something to be proud of. Sara, Courtney, thank you. First of all, thank you. And thank you, Sperry, for all the work that you've done with us. It has been such an incredible experience. But thank you both for spending a few minutes with us. I was so glad we got to tell people a little bit about this story. And thank you for the work that you're doing. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for your partnership in this.
Thank you. Happy Pride Month, everybody. All right, so that was really exciting. And again, you definitely want to check those out. And this is not me trying to get you to buy shoes, although buying shoes is good for the soul. What we want to definitely continue this conversation on is that conversation about flags. So you heard Sara and Courtney talking about there are many different flags in the LGBTQ space. And there's a lot of conversations around some of those flags and how people represent themselves. And this is one of those topics that I am so lucky. My team is ridiculous amounts of fun, but also really thoughtful. And we have found ourselves having this conversation over and over again. So we thought, why don't we bring it to something to talk about live? So with that, I want to bring Jamie Henkel back in and also bring in Mackenzie Hart to join us. Hello, my friends. I know we never see each other. We have to stop meeting like this, though. People
band is back together again.
The band is back together again. So, because I think this is relevant to the conversation that we're about to have, and for people who don't know both of you, and I'm going to jump into the conversation too, so we'll get me into it too. I would love if both of you could tell people, first of all, quickly about you and your role at PFLAG, and also if you'd be willing to share your sexual orientation and gender identity. And Jamie, we could start with you and then go to Mackenzie.
Yeah, so hello everyone, Jamie Henkel, pronouns are she and her, and I'm the Learning and Inclusion Manager, just like I said earlier. I've been with PFLAG for about 15 years, and I am someone I identify as straight, I identify as cisgender, and I identify as an ally.
And hi, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Hart. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the Learning and Inclusion Coordinator at PFLAG. I've been here for just over 2 years, but been working in the movement for years prior. And I identify as bisexual, meaning that I can be attracted to people of genders like and unlike my own, and non-binary.
And I'm still here. I'm still Jean Marie. I'm still queer. And I'm cisgender too. So, as we are getting into Pride Month, I would like to hear, and Jamie, will start with you on this one too, which flag or perhaps flags will you be waving? Because our article that we shared with people today from Teen Vogue, it's a great article with good images, actually explains 21 different Pride flags, and that is not even the complete list. So which one are you choosing? Which one are you most likely to reach for, and why? And Jamie, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so I think that for me, it's the Progress Pride flag all the way. I mean, it was designed in Portland, so I've gotta, right? Like, obviously. I think that that is the most common flag that I'm going to grab, but I just also want to note that it's a little bit dependent on the space that I am in. So if I were to show up at a Trans Day of Visibility event, I'd probably be waving a Trans Pride flag. If I was to show up to a Bi Visibility Day event, I'd probably wave the Bi Pride flag. If I was going to something like Les Prom in Portland or the Red Dress Party, it just depends. It depends on the space. It depends on the community that I am joining for celebration and visibility and affirmation and support. So that's where I'm at. Probably the Progress Pride flag, but it depends.
I love that because it can be situational. And also right now, literally everyone is Googling Les Prom. So well played on that one. Mackenzie.
I tend to go most for the Bi Pride flag. I like the colors the most. I think there's something about the way that those colors work together that is something that I enjoy. And I really enjoyed a few years ago when the bisexual lighting trend was happening, when people would get screenshots from movies when it was pink, purple, and blue lighting and called it bisexual lighting. And I just enjoyed that. So I tend to go for that the most often and then feel affirmed by it. But it's certainly not the only Pride flag that I ever use, but it is what I go to most often for myself.
Yeah, and I feel that I love the Progress Pride flag. I think it's such a great evolution. And I have to say the fact that some people were resistant to it, of course, being kind of who I am, made me want to use it even more. But I love that there's all of these options out there. But I want to bring up that point about resistance to some of the symbols. So We know that when the More Color, More Pride flag, which added black and brown stripes, was introduced in Philadelphia, I'm not going to say a lot, I'm going to say, but some very vocal people in the community really complained about it, said that we shouldn't be changing the pride flag, that that's not the way we represent individuals. The same thing with the Progress pride flag. And there's even an evolution of that includes the intersex symbol. You know, Jamie, you come at this from a different perspective because Mackenzie and I are members of the community. You are our ally. What have you learned about differences in the community from listening to these debates? Because you certainly hear about them in your role at PFLAG, and you just strike me as somebody who would be paying attention no matter what. But what has it said to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot that's going on. And some of the things that I have learned and sort of recognized is that a lot of these signs and symbols, as they are introduced, as they change, as they shift to be more inclusive, is that all happens out of necessity. The reason that we saw the More Color, More Pride flag arise when it did is because we were having this moment of conversation around the way that Black and brown people are treated in the United States and the experiences of discrimination and harassment that they still have. When you think back to when the bi pride flag or the trans pride flag or even the lesbian pride flag were created, when they emerged for the first time, and reflect on what was happening in that moment culturally in the US. I mean, you're in the era of Don't Ask, Don't Tell and the Defense of Marriage Act. You're in this moment where we are finally seeing the sort of tail end of the worst parts of the HIV and AIDS epidemic. You have to think about those cultural moments and why that visibility mattered and was needed and sort of where it came from. And the other thing that I constantly think about, and it's something that we have used as a talking point in one of our learning sessions, that we've got to stop bemoaning these changes and this progress that we're seeing. We've got to stop being afraid of new things and being like, well, back in my day, and instead celebrate the fact that people have these signs and symbols and are creating this visibility and are able to build community and feel safe and feel affirmed and feel welcomed. And I think that it's easy to be like, well, it's just one more symbol that I've got to know what it means. But instead of doing that, let's celebrate the fact that it exists.
Thank you. I love those answers. And actually, I wish more people would listen to what you're saying because there's just so much in there. There's so much that you can understand about a moment in time, about people's needs, about how people are visualizing themselves to find each other. And, none of this is new. We can go, representation is as old as time itself at this point. Mackenzie, you identify as both bi-plus and non-binary. You did mention that your sort of go-to is the bi-pride flag, which Michael Page developed. So you find representation in those pieces. Do you find that when you're in bi and non-binary spaces, people are gravitating more to those symbols, or do you think that people are sort of sticking with the standard pride flag? Is there a move towards this is ours?
I think it's an interesting question. I think that I see the bi pride flag a lot more in bi spaces than I see the non-binary pride flag used. I think part of that is just a level of familiarity. The bi pride flag, I believe, was designed several years before the non-binary pride flag. The use of non-binary in everyday conversation really has taken off in the last few years in a way that many people didn't realize it before. So I don't know if it's, I don't know how that's going to end up being the case over time, whether the non-binary flag will be used more. But I will say, I think that part of the reason why I do see the bi-pride flag used as often as I do is because of the level of bi-erasure that happens even within our community, despite making up a majority of the community. And so oftentimes using the bisexual pride flag is a way of literally being visible, literally making bisexuality visible and making sure that people are seeing it. And so I think that it's just one way how it's used more. I also do think that the colors are more understood and art trends tend to go alongside any political trends and everything. And I think that the colors used in the bi-pride flag have been used more in pieces of art, regardless of the connotations and connections with bisexuality. And so I think that is one reason why we might see it a little bit more too.
Yeah, yeah. And I do have to say, it is one of the prettiest of the flags, which makes me just a little bit jealous. I was really excited because the Sperry line actually does include the Bi Pride flag shoe, which was really neat. So I have to admit to everybody who's watching, one of the reasons we originally thought about doing, as we were joking, the Fun with Flags episode was because we found ourselves in the middle of a debate internally about the Ally Pride flag. So for people who are not familiar with it, we're actually not going to show it because, and you'll hear exactly why in just a moment. The Ally Pride flag, the person who created it's not really attributed to anyone in particular, but typically what you see is a flag that is black and white stripes. And then over that is sort of an A that is done in rainbow. And there was some pushback that PFLAG should be displaying this flag because we are very much an ally organization. But in fact, this is even in the Teen Vogue article. But we know some history about this flag, and a lot of people don't know the history of where this flag came from. All of these flags have meaning. All of the colors have meaning. And those black and white stripes, the black and white striped flag is the straight pride flag. That flag is most typically seen in white supremacist and neo-Nazi rallies. We also know that Vladimir Putin used it to vilify LGBTQ people and especially LGBTQ families. And that is why we refuse to actually display that flag. While I know that things can be reappropriated, that one seems particularly foul because it is elevating a very, very negative symbol. So if you don't believe me, you can actually Google on this one. But still, some people get rattled by this conversation because they feel that allies should have their own flag. So how do we feel about this one? Jamie, I'm starting with you as the resident ally on the conversation.
As the resident ally, I have to say, I have personally never felt the need for a symbol or a flag or something that designates me as an ally. I don't deserve a cookie for doing the right thing and being a good person and showing up for the people that I love and care about. I don't feel the need for that. And when I am trying to be visible as an ally, I'm going to use the signs and symbols that are already associated with the LGBTQ plus community. The one exception to that is, PFLAG has had this I'm an ally because campaign for a really long time. And I think that those signs of allyship that are backed up by action, that's what I want. I don't want to just be identified as an ally. I want to say I'm an ally and here's what that means. And here's what I'm going to do with that. This is how I'm going to demonstrate my support. The other thing that I would note about an ally pride flag, like a symbol or a sign or a flag that is exclusively for allies, is it feels really weird to me to be in a space where I am a guest and I am there to demonstrate support and celebration and affirmation. For me to need or require this symbol that says, I'm with you, but I'm not of you. And I need you to know that. That feels very weird to me and is why I would choose to fly the Progress Pride flag or situationally, depending on the kind of event that I was at, choose to fly a different flag. So that's where I'm at. That's where my head is. And I'm okay with people disagreeing with me, but it's where I'm at.
It's why we call you culturally queer, Hinkle. It is exactly how you got there. Mackenzie, what do you think about this? Because we have discussed this a lot.
I think everything Jamie said is fantastic. The one thing that I would add is that I don't particularly like the idea of there being an ally pride flag because despite the fact I do think that people should be able to be proud of being an ally, we so often see ally kind of supplanting other things and other conversations within the community. One of the largest examples is when people will use the acronym LGBTQIA and they'll say that the A stands for ally when it quite literally stands for asexual, and asexuality is something that there's a severe lack of understanding around. And so while, of course, talking about allyship and actions for allies to take and the pride and joy that I think people should be able to feel as allies, when it then becomes an identity, when it becomes kind of being marked as equivalent to other identities that people have that are kind of completely inseparable from who they are, it's something that I think gets into some spotty areas that then becomes a little bit more erasive, and I don't think that is a very fair thing.
I think that's really, really a good point. And I think that it really does get to that point of, as Jamie was saying, of being with us, being of us, but not being there. I mean, because it really does sort of separate people in the end. So we're all no on the ally flag for a lot of different good reasons, not just bad design. So as we find ourselves in the beginning of Pride Month, and as we talk about how we wish to be seen, I would like to hear from both of you. And this time I'm going to change it up. We'll start with you, Mackenzie. What is one thing that you would like to see people do to learn more about LGBTQ history and culture this June?
Putting it into one thing is very difficult. And as you know, I wax a little poetic, but I think that one concept I want people to know, and there are so many steps to this, of course, because of course there are, but one thing that I really want people to know is why it's called Pride, what the point of it is, what the historical background for Pride is, because I think so often we hear so many often well-intentioned but complete misunderstandings of what Pride events are. Anyone who talks about Pride in coded language, unintentionally coded language, saying things like, oh, I want it to be family friendly. I want it to be this. I want it to be that. I don't think that this should be happening there. I don't think this should be happening, is missing the point of what Pride originally was and how it was about liberation, and it has become more celebratory and has gotten more corporate involvement and has become more mainstream, which for a lot of people is a really good thing. I just think about young queer people who get to go to their first parade and they see brands supporting them, they see leaders supporting them, and knowing that was not a thing over 10-15 years ago, even as recent as then. There's so many positives to it, but I think that there's unfortunately a lot of misunderstanding about Pride events, why they happen and what the point is, and the political side of it, because in some ways it has been depoliticized in a way that I think has been harmful, because our lives are now more politicized than ever. And instead people are saying, well, we don't want to go too far. We don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And meanwhile, laws are coming for our throat. So it's something that I don't have one clear action to take, but I think just learning about what Pride means, what it started as, how it's evolved, and looking into something like the Queer Liberation March, which is ongoing today, and comparing that to different events, and just looking at the wide array of experiences when it comes to this conversation.
I think that is really, really well put. And I think the coded language point is worth talking about even more. Jamie, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a lot more prescriptive and encourage people to learn about something that I am personally doing a deeper dive on, which is the sort of history and complexities and nuances around two-spirit identities. I was doing research for a presentation that is happening this month, and I just was caught off guard by how much I didn't know about where that word came from, when it was coined. And so I want to encourage people to think about those things you don't know, and whether it's two-spirit identities or not, do that homework and dedicate that time to learn about something new.
I love that. And I want to suggest to people, if you haven't done it yet, Eric Cervini, who's been on our show before, did a great show called The Book of Queer. I actually binge watched it last weekend. There's a phenomenal episode on Stonewall and what happened. There's a lot that happened before Stonewall that it acknowledges there is some about two-spirit identities. I think it's a great way to not just kind of, wave your flag this month, but also to learn the stories behind what got us to many of these things. So check something like that out. This was just the conversation I was hoping that we had. And I did work the phrase fun with flags in, even though I probably just violated 85 copyrights, but we're PFLAG. Come on, give us a hug. Jamie, Mackenzie, thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you both in 10 minutes, probably. That wraps up another episode of Something to Talk About Live. Thank you for joining us. Definitely listen to that conversation that we just had and make a commitment to learning a little bit. And just as a reminder, Pride was not a party in the beginning. It was a riot against hate and against discrimination and marginalization. It remains a protest, and it needs to be. So with that, we will be back again next week with a fantastic show. Definitely read the article that we shared this week. Have a very good and a very safe Pride Month. Please get out there and support your community if it is safe for you. If you need anything, you can always locate your closest PFLAG chapter at pflag.org/find. Otherwise, I will see you again next week on Something to Talk About Live. As we wrap up every week, we remind you to run fast, laugh hard, and most of all, be kind. See you next week.